It's Super Bowl week. You already know that's what we're talking about on episode 114 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy as always. Now, we do have some NBA, some NHL, and some college basketball to talk about as well, but obviously the Super Bowl takes precedence, and there's always some interesting player props. We got some interesting news leading into the week about what's going on with Kansas City a little bit. But before we get into all of that, Brett, let's take a look at hindsight with Higgins. Now, I still have two plays out. I took a page out of your book and left some pending. So my two margin plays, which was Beginners Boulevard last week or last episode, those are still up for play on Sunday, and we'll see how those go. But out of my five plays that did cash or didn't, I went 3-2, so not too bad. Yeah, the Levy lock at Duke minus 9.5 didn't even hit. Miami ended up winning that one outright. Luckily, I was on Miami plus 9.5. That's why we have the pillars and we stay on opposite sides. At least one of us was a winner.
At least one of us was a winner. Well, I could be happy for you. So there you go. At least I got you a win, Higgins. And definitely keep fading me.
Let's jump into some Beginners Boulevard now and talk about a term that you're going to hear throughout this episode or throughout sports betting terminology in general, the handle. Now, this is the amount of money a sportsbook takes from wagers. This could be also broken down by individual game or sport. And with the Super Bowl, high trafficked events like this, you'll hear the term handle all over the media when they're talking about just how much money is pouring into sports books for these games.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I thought it was a great term for Beginners Boulevard this week, Higgins, or this episode, because you will hear how much each casino took on their handle on the Super Bowl. So now you know what they're talking about.
And betting the day of the Super Bowl versus betting the week leading up to the Super Bowl, there's different forms of the handle. You can break those stats and metrics down in so many different ways. It's really interesting to see, especially with the just large amount of money that gets bet on this one single game. And with that, let's just jump right into the NFL and talk about Super Bowl 55, Brett. There are 578 lines in Oregon. I'm not going to do you the burden of listening to us go through every single one of them. We picked out the generic spread money line, spread and over under, and then we got some props for you. But Brett, the main odds for the spread money line and over under, they really have not changed for much of this since the early lines came out. It's stayed Kansas City -3. The VIG's changed a little bit. Money line's gone up and down a little bit. Over under, I mean, it's at 55.5 now. It started at 56.5, excuse me. So this line stayed pretty consistent, but as more money pours in as we get closer to game time, do you think that these are going to rise even to maybe Kansas City -3.5, or do you think it's going to stay at where it's been?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Higgins. I see what our numbers are on the graphic here, but in New Jersey, where I am, Higgins, the numbers are actually the same as our last episode. So it really hasn't moved. And to be honest with you, it only moved 2 total cents from the episode before that. So, I mean, you want to talk about minimal movement, but that makes sense, right? Like, we have the most data, we have a whole week off in between to analyze these teams and get this line down. So, we know what we're doing. The books know what they're doing. There's no real huge surprises, although I guess the COVID stuff is a little bit of a surprise. We spoke about it a little bit in our last episode, but Demarcus Robinson, the backup center Kilgore, went on the COVID list. It was because of a barber that actually entered the Chiefs facility, and they got him out of there as soon as they got the test results. Kilgore actually finished the haircut. He had a great tweet with
His
the
tweet was
half-shaved head.
fantastic. The tweet by Kilgore was fantastic. He was a great sport with it. Apparently, the barber got tested before entering the facility, but they did not wait to start the haircuts until they did not wait until after he got the results to give him for him to start giving haircuts because he had 20 people on his roster to give haircuts to that day, including Patrick Mahomes, who did not end up getting a haircut. But Brett, these COVID concerns, I mean, we haven't had any positive tests show up yet stemming from something like that. But that's making me stay off this spread until Sunday, I think. I'm going to post on our social media where I'm going to be. I'm leaning Kansas City -3, but with that uncertainty of a barber just entering the facility recently and potentially exposing some players, I need to wait until day of. So I'm leaning Kansas City -3, but I can't pull that trigger yet.
So I'm gonna be honest, Higgins. It is Wednesday night when we are recording this. It'll be Thursday morning when hopefully most people are listening to this. That will be 3 days removed from the person entering the facility. Well, really 4 days since the contact, or 3 days since the contact, 4 days since the event occurred. I guess whatever you want to say. So, like the fact that there's been no tests to pop up that have been positive since the two players have been put into quarantine and they haven't tested positive yet either. We know they were wearing masks during this. So, like, I have some faith that this may be contained, and I'm not very concerned. And even if I was concerned, Higgins, I guess I'm on the right side because I'm taking the points here. I'm just taking Tampa Bay, but I'm really taking the number. I'm taking the +3 because anything can happen in an individual game, Higgins, and I get a little bit of insurance plus the greatest quarterback of all time. So, not the worst bet in the world to make. I also get it at -102 here in New Jersey, Higgins. So, honestly, getting Tom Brady with points at -102, like that's honestly just a combo too good to pass. I know Patrick Mahomes is on the other side. Not really loving betting against that man, but I just listed it. Tom Brady +3 -102. It's kind of a combo that's too good to pass up.
Yeah, all your reasoning there makes sense. I wouldn't say that I'm concerned with the coronavirus. I just think that there's enough of a risk for me to not place the bet now. And since we've seen the line literally not move in the past 10 days, I don't see there being really a risk in me waiting and having that line potentially change. I'd say I'm cautiously optimistic that, like you said, they've been quarantined. There's been no positive tests yet. Hopefully, none pop up, and we have both teams at full strength or as close as they can be, really. But I'm leaning Kansas City -3. I do really think this line is pretty accurate to how the game's going to go. I think it's going to be a very, very close game, and part of that leads into one or two of my props, actually, Brett. One of my props is I think that there's a high potential this game gets tied after 0-0. Meaning, especially early in the game, if Patrick Mahomes, for example, marches right down and scores a touchdown, who's to say Tom Brady doesn't just go do that right back and it's tied 7-7?
Well, you could even bet that, Higgins. Both teams to score on their first drive. You could bet anything in this game, Higgins, if you really want to. You could find a way to bet it. I promise that.
If you can't find the line, maybe call up your sports book and they might come up with a line for you because it's the Super Bowl. Like I said, 578 lines in Oregon by now. Would not be surprised to see that hit over 600 by the weekend potentially as some more miscellaneous props come out, Brett. But yeah, -135. I think the game's going to be tied. So I'm going to take that as a yes. I think the game's going to be tied after 0-0. But also with how close this game is, I wouldn't be surprised if there is an onside kick scenario. Potentially late in the game, but also, remember when Sean Payton shocked the world and kicked a onside kick coming out of halftime? Andy Reid, Bruce Arians, they might have fun enough to do something crazy or wacky and unconventional. I'm not saying that that's likely to happen, but you never know. Sean Payton showed that it's a possibility. So, +200 for the potential of an onside kick when this line is at 3 points, I think that's good value. So I'm making that more as a value pick than anything.
All right, all right. I mean, I have no. That feels like a shot in the dark, but +200. Why not? I mean, fun thing to root for. I'm on one of those Higgins. Maybe not a fun thing to root for, but there's a lot of famous missed kicks in the Super Bowl. Higgins,
Wide
wide
right.
right comes to mind. Yeah, exactly. So,
Every Bills fan just turned off this podcast, probably. By the
and
way,
you know what? You know what stadium that happened, or maybe not stadium. That's not the right term. You know what city that happened in?
no.
Tampa Bay.
Oh, how convenient.
No, what are the odds? So a missed field goal in this game is sitting at plus 125 Higgins. I just think there's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
I could see that.
Pressure.
I could see that.
So kind of like you, I think like some fluky things might be able to happen here, and maybe a missed kick from Suck Up or Bucker in this game at plus 125. Sure, I'll roll the dice on that. I'm on your kicking bets, Higgins. I see you.
Okay, okay. Brett, I do have one other prop bet, and this is honestly my favorite prop bet. If we went and looked at our Super Bowl episode last year, I guarantee you I took this same bet. I'm pretty sure I actually made it a pick of the pod last year as well. Um, if you look at the history of the coin toss, Brett, it's not very 50-50 on who wins and who loses in terms of recent memory. Since 2000, the NFC team has won 17 times. The AFC has won 3. Yet, it is minus 105 either way. So I am going to take Tampa Bay to win the coin toss at minus 105 because 17 times the NFC has won the coin toss. But there is another side to this coin, if I may, I guess. But Tom Brady in the Super Bowl historically is not good at coin tosses. Like 2-7 bad at coin tosses, but I guess that makes sense considering the AFC has been so bad. He's been there 9 times with them. So really, 2 of the 3 times that they've won since 2000, Tom Brady won for the AFC. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe he does bring that karma into the NFC and gets a win for the Bucks on the coin toss, an early win for me. I like betting the coin toss just because it's early on in the game. It's before the game even starts, actually. So you get an early win or loss, kind of helps boost the morale a little bit. I like the early action.
What if you lose? Then it shits your morale.
Uh,
Like,
Not much, not too much. It's
not
just a coin
much.
toss.
Just the coin toss. Higgins, I think you're nuts, but God bless you. Okay. I have no take on the coin toss as it is just a event that no one has any control over, and I'm just rooting for Higgins. If Higgins is a winner, we all had fun. That's great. My last prop of the night is going to be Mike Evans over under 63 and a half receiving yards. And I'm going to take the under on that. Mike Evans has not been putting up 63 and a half yards very often. Higgins, I don't think he does it in the biggest game of the year. So give me the under on 63 and a half at minus 110.
Especially against a Steve Spagnuolo offense, and Spags is known for giving Tom Brady trouble and making him look at other options to pass to. Taking away his number one wide receiver is typically a favorite of Spags, who has a 3-2 winning record against Tom Brady in the playoffs, by the way, just so you know. They've played a lot against each other, even though Spags is a defensive coordinator. He was a head coach briefly, was a part of that Giants team that upset the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Just another little thing to be aware of. Brett, there's a ton of other wacky props, a lot more wacky than even that coin toss one that I'm on. I mean, you can bet on the color of the Gatorade, or as Oregon puts it, the color of the liquid poured on the winning coach. They do not say Gatorade.
We get Gatorade in New Jersey. We actually shove Gatorade down your throat in New Jersey. We flaunt how much we can say it.
Now, there is an interesting perspective of this bet, though. I mean, because of COVID times and everything, we've seen teams still. I mean, in bowl games, for example, we still saw teams celebrate wins by dumping the Gatorade onto their coaches. We saw some coaches evade the practice and not end up getting the liquid poured on them. So plus 275 for there to be no liquid poured on a winning coach. It's an interesting thought in these coronavirus days, I think. Interesting thought.
I think there will be Gatorade poured on the coach. That's just my take. I have no inside info, but that's my feel.
I agree. I think there will be Gatorade poured on a coach too. I just find it an interesting perspective, wanted to bring it up. Also, both teams that are playing in this have red in their team colors. Does that have any impact on what color Gatorade they drink? I don't know.
You think it's that easy?
I don't think it's that easy. I
No,
don't think
I
it's
don't
that
think so.
easy.
I don't think it's that easy.
If it was that easy, it would be pretty easy to pocket a quick plus 500.
Right, like it wouldn't be. It would be lower odds than that. No way, it's that easy.
One final prop I wanted to talk on, Brett, before we get out of talking about the Super Bowl. In Oregon, you can bet on whether or not there will be an offensive or a defensive lineman to score a touchdown. Now, it doesn't say how they have to score a touchdown, whether it be a trick offensive play or a scoop and score, for example. But you can only bet yes on this. You can't bet no that it's not going to happen. And the odds are plus 1,000. Don't think the value's quite there for me, but I found that to be a very interesting line offered.
I think that is a fun bet, Higgins. Like that to me, that would be the most fun bet. Like just rooting for a fumble and inside the five every
Indomitius
drive.
Sue.
Oh man, it just seems like a lot of fun. So I don't know. If you have $5, don't throw more than $5 on that. But if you have $5 and you're in Oregon, you want to have some fun on Super Bowl Sunday, go offensive lineman. Let's get a touchdown. Let's get one of those trick plays where we get 72 in there. He lines up as the tight end. We run the play action. All of a sudden, 72 runs the little button hook, and he gets the little yeah, exactly. So
Everyone loves to see the lineman score.
I'm all in for it. I'm all in. I think that's a fun $5 max play, Higgins.
Well, I'm not on it now. I'll let you know, and I'll let everyone know on social media if I do find myself on that. But I agree that is like a $5 max. It's literally listed under novelty props, so that in itself says something about it. Let's move on to some money line magic, though, Brett. Talking about some Big Ten college basketball, Purdue versus Maryland on Tuesday night. And Brett, we're going to jump into this game rather late because ranked Purdue led late, and we're going to jump in at 3.5 minutes when Eric Ayala made a three-pointer to cut that lead to 4. Now, Brett, we need to remember that name, Eric Ayala.
Yeah, definitely need to remember that name. He's going to come up big later in this one, Higgins.
Another name that will be mentioned a few times here is Daryl Morcell. He went 1 for 2 at the line for the Terps, cut that Boilermaker lead to 3. Single possession game inside 2 minutes now. Purdue would quickly extend that lead back up to 5 with a jumper by Eric Hunter Jr. But again, Morcell responds right back with a layup assisted by none other than Eric Ayala.
Yeah, there were lots of fouls late in this one, though. Purdue was back at the line, and Jaden Ivey made both. But you said it, Higgins. We'd mentioned Daryl Morcell. Once again, Daryl Morcell responded for the Terps. This time he makes a big 3 and the assist by Ayala.
Once again, Eric Ayala and Daryl Morcell. Those names, big time for the Terps this season. Fast forward 45 seconds later, and what do you know? Eric Ayala's on the line. He makes one of 2. Purdue leads 60-59, and they grab the board off of the second missed free throw. Purdue could not make a bucket on the next possession, though. Maryland grabs the board, calls a timeout. 16 seconds left. So, who's the ball going to, Brett? Ayala or Morcell?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. One of those two.
Well, if you flip the coin, it's going to Eric Ayala. I told you to remember the name. The ball is in his hands at the final drive. He drives, misses the layup, actually got his own rebound from missing the layup, but he was fouled on his initial shot, goes to the line. He made both free throws to jump Purdue from a 60-59 deficit to a 61-60 lead for Maryland. 3 seconds left on the clock. And then there was some chaos with a double dribble by Purdue, and all in all, at the end, Maryland wins 61-60 in a barn burner down to the end. Big Ten showdown, always worth the money.
Yeah, absolutely crazy ending in the game, and the night only got worse for Purdue Higgins as their flight had to land in Indianapolis due to some technical problems. So really, just glad they made it home safe after a brutal night on and off the court for Purdue.
Yeah, that sounds like a long night for sure. And you know what? Maybe they should have shipped themselves a pillow using FedEx Office. A new year begins a new beginning. For all my listeners that own a business, I want to tell you about FedEx Office. If you are just starting or have been running your company for generations, FedEx Office gives you the best way to print marketing materials, posters, signage, graphics, and so much more. With FedEx, creating, editing, saving, and ordering are fast and easy. We are teaming up with FedEx and Podgo to bring our listeners 30% off your next order of $100 or more at podgo.co/FedEx. That's podgo.co/FedEx for 30% off your next order. FedEx, the world on time. And Brett, 30% off shipping right now. Everyone is living by the postal service, whether it be the USPS or people like FedEx or UPS even or Amazon. So getting 30% off of some shipping materials if you're spending at least $100, that's some nice savings right there.
Yeah, FedEx Office hooking it up. So definitely hop on that. Pago.co/FedEx.
Now, we just talked about the Super Bowl, and that's coming up on Sunday. It's the big story of the week, obviously, but there's still plenty to talk about on Thursday. So we got some NHL, NBA, and some college basketball coming up for you right here. NHL on Thursday night. There are some great games. Brett, I find myself on two of them. One of them including your New York Rangers. The Capitals are coming to town, coming to Madison Square Garden to face off against the Rangers. And I'm sorry, Brett, but I think Washington's going to win this one. I'm taking Washington money line at minus 105. Now, I know the Caps are without one of their two goalies with Samsonov put on injured reserve recently, but you know what? The Washington Capitals offense compared to the Rangers offense to start this season, they're incomparable. The Washington Capitals average a goal more than the Rangers. I mean, I'd be tempted to almost take them on the puck line, but they're technically underdogs on the puck line, and I was too lazy to look at the alternate line. So I'm just going to take them on the money line at minus 105. I think they're basically calling this a toss-up. Vanacek's played well enough for me, going 5-1 with two overtime losses, allowing less than 3 goals on per game, whereas the Washington Capitals offense is averaging more than 3 goals per game. So give the edge to the Caps here.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. Well, I'm not going to be on this one, Higgins. The Rangers are giving me enough heartache without me betting on them. I don't need to bet on them.
I understand that. I understand that. My other game, I'm traveling north of the border. We got the Vancouver Canucks versus the Toronto Maple Leafs on Thursday night. I said it on a few other episodes, Brett. I love these NHL divisions that they're doing, and the Canadian specific division has been really entertaining so far. We have the Canucks, who they're 6-7 on the season, not great, but not awful. But they're facing against the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have started really well. They're 7-2-1. Now, I was looking at the puck line, and I'm going to take Toronto on the puck line here at minus 1.5 with plus 121 odds. And it was a hard pick to make, Brett. It was very hard to pick to make. I didn't like Toronto at minus 200 on the money line, though. And when you look at the history of Toronto's wins this season so far, only 2 of their 7 wins are multi-goal wins. It's alarming for a puck line, isn't it? But if you look at the Vancouver Canucks history, every single loss that they've had this season is by more than 1 goal. So I trust the team that's a little hotter against a team that when they lose badly. I think that trend's going to continue for the Canucks, and if Toronto wins, it should be by more than 1 goal. So getting plus 121 odds is good enough for me there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know where I would lean in this one. Generally speaking, I think Toronto is a little soft of a team. Like they just they're not really very scrappy, Higgins. I don't know, like you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
sometimes these teams like they get to lose pucks and they fight a little harder and dig a little deeper. Toronto is more of a finesse team, if that makes sense. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can be really good doing that, but it just always makes me afraid to back them. Like I just always feel like if they run into a tough team, a team that's a little tougher that night, like oh man, they could be on the wrong side early. But I think you laid out a lot of reasonable arguments why Toronto could absolutely cover this puck line at -1.5. So I don't know where to go on this one, and that's probably why I'm not on it either.
Another spot that I liked in that game, but I stayed away from, is the over 6.5, and that's just because I don't like where the vig is at in this. If I wake up in the morning and it's closer to a -110, I'll take that, but -120 for an over 6.5, just that's not great value. It's just not. Even though when you look at both of these teams' offenses, they average a combined 7 goals per game, and they average letting up about 6 goals per game. So everything says the over should hit. I don't necessarily like that -120 though, so I'm going to wait till the morning, see if maybe those odds caught some people and they just instinctively took the under, and I can capitalize on it because of it.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's jump into some NBA though, Brett. We have some interesting games going on Thursday night there as well. I mean, we got the Houston Rockets versus the Memphis Grizzlies, two teams that in their past 10 games are 7-3. Both of them are 7-3. I mean, John Morant coming back from Memphis has been huge for them. The Rockets have begun to find their stride as well. But you know what? The Rockets are playing on Wednesday night. Memphis isn't, and this is in Memphis. And the Rockets, they had a hard night. They lost 104-87 in Oklahoma City. So they have to travel from already being on the road in OKC to Memphis. Not a terribly long travel, but you still got to fly there. You still got to check into your hotel, go through all that legwork after playing a full game, and then get up and play on Thursday. Memphis has a bit more injuries than the Rockets, but it doesn't concern me too much. I think that the Grizzlies are going to get this done at home, and they're going to inch closer. They're 3-5 at home right now. I think they're going to make it 4-5.
Yeah, I always like being in the city before the team that you're gonna play, so I definitely think that makes a ton of sense. Houston, just so everyone knows, has been the best defensive team in the league since trading James Harden. So just something to keep an eye out. Over under in this one's 225.5. Something to keep in mind, maybe.
Brett, a funny thing about that stat you just mentioned of since losing James Harden, they've Rockets have been great at defense. Since acquiring James Harden, the Nets have been terrible at defense. So kind of a direct correlation, maybe. I mean, there's always been a lot of talk about James Harden's defense, so it's just kind of funny to see how that has happened statistically after this
Yeah,
trade.
I I think there's a little bit of truth to what you're saying, Higgins. Like I do think some of it might be Harden, but it's not all of it, right?
I agree. I
And
agree. Yeah.
and I also think that from the Nets' perspective, as crazy as this is, like they lose to teams like the Wizards and they beat the Clippers, or like they lose to Cleveland and then they go and beat the Celtics. So I'm not sure I'm concerned about the Nets because the Wizards and Cleveland. Actually, Cleveland might make the playoffs, but the Wizards don't look like they're going to be in the playoffs. They have like 3 wins on the year, and like 2 of them came against the Nets, something crazy like that. So, uh, as long as the Wizards can only keep beating the Nets will be in good shape and won't have to worry about facing the Wizards.
You're absolutely right. However, we never know when Russ mode just turns on and Westbrook decides to just take over a league, which he's done before. But, Brett, let's talk about two teams that most likely will be in the playoffs, a game that you're on between the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, Lakers had a long road trip. LeBron got into it with courtside Karen and old steroid guy, and now he returns home to face Jokic and the Nuggets. And I like the Lakers minus 5.5 in this one. AD has not been playing very not. I don't want to say he hasn't been playing well. That's not fair to him. He hasn't been playing up to his standards. How about that, Higgins? And LeBron's really just been carrying this crew. So I think LeBron keeps the train rolling here. I like the way the Lakers are playing. I actually like how Denver's playing too, but I just think the Lakers are hot right now. They're playing well. Everything seems to be clicking. Their bench is coming through when needed. LeBron's getting enough help that it doesn't feel like he's doing it all by himself, but he's certainly like the lead horse. So I just think things are good in La La Land, and I think AD will eventually figure it out. Higgins, like I'm not so concerned that he doesn't look like the normal AD thus far. We're still pretty early in the year. He still has some time, so anyone that's got futures on the Lakers, I don't think you need to sell those tickets yet.
Well, last year there were similar concerns about Anthony Davis, and he'd play the first 3 quarters very strong and then disappear in the fourth quarter sometime. I'd say the good thing, though, is none of these slumps that individual players are going through seems to be affecting the team. Whenever I'm watching the Lakers, they continually seem to be having fun. The guys on the bench are getting up and supporting their teammates and having a blast whenever a big play happens. LeBron has a smile on his face a lot, it seems. I mean, and for someone that is that late in his career, he is still absolutely dominating. It's really fun to watch, and I'm sure it's fun for him to play as well. So I like the Lakers minus 5.5 pick, and I think at the Staples Center that should be an interesting one.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Higgins, if Anthony Davis's name was John Davis, right? He'd be putting up incredible stats, and we'd be talking about, wow, look at this guy. But he set the bar so high that like a little bit of a dip to normal people numbers is like, oh my God, is he lost it? No, it's just really hard to go out and average 25 and 15 in the NBA every night.
That is a very, very challenging thing to do. He makes it look easy at times, but it is very, very difficult. Let's talk about some guys that are still working on their college basketball game, trying to make it to the pros, jumping into college hoops now. We have some interesting games to look at, Brett. Before we get into our Power 5 games, I do want to talk about a West Coast game that I like, and there's just a very brief point about it because it's super simple and easy. Gonzaga, the number one team in the nation, travels to go face Pacific. These two teams played each other on January 23rd, and Gonzaga won 95-49. That is a 46-point difference. This spread is only 22.5 points. I don't think Pacific is going to magically find 24 points to cover in this one. Gonzaga wins. They cover minus 22.5. Pretty easy call to me.
Yeah, you don't think they have a 24-point swing in them in this one?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Not this time.
All right, maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
I'll stay out in the West Coast though, Higgins. We'll go a little bit east of wherever that game's being played, whether it's in Washington or California. We'll go to Utah for this one, Higgins. Arizona's also traveling to Utah to play the Utes. And Zona minus 1.5 in this one. I'll take Zona. They're the better team in this one. So I'll take them to win by a bucket. No problem.
Yeah, minus 1.5. You're not really risking too much taking the spread over the money line, which is at minus 124. If I were on that game, I'd probably do the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's what it is. I honestly, Higgins, I'm just taking the better team this time. Last time I tried to get cute and I took Duke, I was like, "Oh, Duke's hot. Duke's this. Duke's that. The other team's a mess." Well, the team with the better record won, and in this one, I'm just taking the team with the better record.
Sometimes it is smart to just follow the anagram KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly.
One more college basketball game, and honestly, this is going to be the game of the night on Thursday in college hoops. Ohio State travels to face Iowa, the Buckeyes versus the Hawkeyes. One of these eyes is going to get a W, though, and I think it's going to be the home team. I think Iowa is going to win, and not only that, they're going to cover -5.5. And it's basically just because Luca Garza is on Iowa's team, and I don't think Ohio State has anyone that can really match up to this man. He has been on a tear. Now, both of these teams have nearly identical records and nearly identical records against the spread. They're both 10-7 against the spread, and their records are 13-4 and 14-4, respectively, between Iowa and Ohio State. So I think this is going to be a very good game. I wouldn't be surprised if this spread comes down to potentially fouls at the end of the game, where Iowa has a slight lead, and if they make their free throws, they cover. If they don't, Ohio State covers. But I think that's going to be a fantastic game to watch between two top 10 opponents. I told you the Big Ten's always entertaining when we were going through Moneyline Magic, and I fully expect it will again on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think we'll have another great game in the Big Ten. I think you're right, Higgins. And yeah, I like Iowa at home as well. I think I'd probably like Ohio State if they were the home team. I just, I think that's kind of how this one's gonna go. It'll be back and forth, and a few bounces, maybe a good call for the home team turns it that way, right?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly right. That over under at 158.5 also, I think, just points to how entertaining this game's going to be. It's going to be a high scoring game. There's going to be lots of offense. It's going to be very fast paced. That Gonzaga over under at 151.5, that's just entirely dependent on how much Pacific can score, because Gonzaga can put up 90 rather easily without a lot of effort. Can the Pacific score enough on Gonzaga, though, to hit that over under? I'm not sure. Over-unders, they've been interesting in college basketball this year, Brett. You and I have talked about this a few times off air. It seems like there's a lot of unders that are hitting until we actually take the under and then the over hits. So I've been staying away from them a lot on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have not been tracking it, to be quite honest, but it just feels like, you get a text from a friend here or there. It's like, oh, I was on this over, it lost, or oh, I was on this over and it lost, and I'm like, huh. Feels like a lot of people are sending me this over lost last night, and it's not always the same night either. It's like someone sends it on Monday and a different person on Tuesday, and so you're like, maybe the unders are coming in. So I don't know if it's a real trend or just kind of, hey, my friends all bet terrible over unders.
Life's too short to bet the under.
There you go. That seems fair too.
I think Big Cat said that. I think wise Big
I
Cat said
like
that.
that. That's a good take.
All right, let's jump into our Levy lock and pick of the pod before we get out of here, Brett. Not a lot of success from either of us last week. Both the Levy lock and the pick of the pod lost, but I did at least get a couple of wins in last episode, so I think I do get the honors here. And I'm gonna keep it entertaining. I'm gonna keep it with a Super Bowl prop bet, like I said before. The coin toss is not nearly as 50-50 as you would think. History says that since 2000, the NFC team has won 17 of 20 coin tosses to start the Super Bowl. So, I'm picking Tampa Bay to win the coin toss because it's -105 on either side. Vegas thinks it's going to be a 50-50. Coin tosses as a singular act are 50-50, but if you want to look at how it has gone, the NFC wins. The NFC wins the coin toss typically, so I'm going to go with that.
Okay, good luck. Yeah, I mean
Got to keep things fun here. Got to keep it light.
that. There's nothing wrong with having some fun. Yeah, and then for me, I'm gonna be on Arizona -1.5, and basically I'm picking this because it's a coin toss. No, I'm picking this because they're the better team. Yeah, they're on the road, they're playing at altitude, but I'm taking the better team to win a basketball game on a given night. So that's what I'm backing here, Higgins. Arizona by a basket in Utah.
Alrighty, we'll see how those Thursday night bets pan out. We'll also see how our Super Bowl bets pan out. Like I said, I don't have a pick on the spread or money line or anything yet. I'm leaning Kansas City, but I got to wait a little closer to game time before I place that with how the coronavirus has just thrown sports into whack recently. And the line really has not changed at all in the past 10 days, so I don't see the point in placing it right now. If you had to, pin me at Kansas City -3, but I'm not placing it until Sunday. Make sure to follow us on social media for those picks, though. I'll post some other prop bets, I'm sure, on Sunday. I'm sure I will post my Super Bowl picks, maybe even some weekend basketball plays as well. That's at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. This has been episode 114 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you again after the Super Bowl, guys. It's the last football episode of the season.